Triceratops, 3 horns aimed forward like a battering ram on wheels. This wasn't decoration, it was a warning system mounted on 9 tons of muscle. Picture a rhino that evolved specifically to fight dragons, because that's basically what happened. Those horns stretched over a meter long, sharp enough to puncture bone, and scientists found Tyrannosaurus bones with holes that match perfectly. Triceratops didn't run, it stood ground. That massive frill behind its head wasn't just for show either. Solid bone, reinforced edges, covered in blood vessels for display. Fossils show scarring, healed breaks, evidence of brutal combat. This thing locked horns with other Triceratops like deer wrestling over territory. High-speed ramming would shatter skulls, so they grappled instead. When you're built like a pickup truck crossed with a medieval lance, everything becomes a combat opportunity. But here's the twist. Despite being the poster child for dinosaur that fights T-Rex, most Triceratops probably died eating plants peacefully. Evolution's cruelest joke. Maximum weapons, minimum drama. And while Triceratops was perfecting frontal combat, another dinosaur chose a completely different strategy. Don't fight, just look terrifying. Stegosaurus. Those plates running down its back like a mohawk made of dinner plates. For over a century, scientists argued about what they were for. Temperature regulation, display, armor. Turns out, probably all 3 and none of them well. The plates were covered in blood vessels, meaning they could flush with color. Imagine a billboard that changes based on mood. Angry Stegosaurus, red plates. But the real weapon wasn't on its back. It was the tail. 4 spikes, each 60 centimeters long, arranged in a formation paleontologists officially named the thagomizer. Yes, that's the actual scientific term, named after a Far Side cartoon. Because sometimes science has a sense of humor. Fossils show these spikes punched holes through Allosaurus bones. The tail could swing fast enough to shatter ribs. Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a lime controlling a body the size of a van. And somehow it worked. When this thing went extinct 145 million years ago, the ecosystem lost its best-dressed tank, but nature was already designing something bigger. Brachiosaurus. Imagine a giraffe designed by someone who thought giraffes weren't ambitious enough. This 80-ton ladder ate treetops 13 meters off the ground. Its front legs were longer than its back legs, giving it a posture no other giant could copy. While other longnecks grazed low, Brachiosaurus monopolized the penthouse. But here's where it gets weird. Scientists debated for decades whether it could even lift its head that high. The heart would need to generate massive pressure to pump blood up a neck that long. Recent models suggest it needed an enlarged, hypertrophic heart with thickened muscular walls, like modern giraffes, but scaled up to industrial levels. A biological water pump running 24/7 just to feed the brain. And despite the skull's nasal opening sitting high, the actual fleshy nostrils were positioned low on the snout, just above the mouth. Evolution doesn't always put bones where the soft parts go. When Brachiosaurus walked, the ground registered it like a minor earthquake. But earthquakes don't leave footprints the size of bathtubs, and while this giant reached for the sky, another dinosaur went in the opposite direction. Low profile, maximum armor, Ankylosaurus, a tank that evolution forgot to install brakes on. Every surface covered in bony plates called osteoderms, embedded directly into the skin like natural chainmail. Even its eyelids had armor, but the signature feature was the club. A 50-kilogram hammer of fused bone at the tail's end, swung by muscles built specifically for devastation. Biomechanical studies show it could generate enough force to shatter T-Rex leg bones. One good hit, and the king of predators becomes the limping king of regret. Ankylosaurus didn't hunt. It didn't need to. Plants don't fight back, but everything that looked at it wrong received the same message. Try me and lose mobility. Fossils show these clubs damaged, cracked from repeated impacts. This dinosaur spent 68 million years ago perfecting the art of being inedible. And it worked so well, predators started looking for easier meals. Which brings us to the predator that made easier meals an extinct concept. Allosaurus. Before T-Rex existed, this was the nightmare. 9 meters long, built like a sprinter with a mouthful of steak knives. It lived 150 million years ago, when the Jurassic period was writing its own horror stories. And Allosaurus was the editor. Those jaws didn't crush like T-Rex. They slashed. Thin, blade-like teeth designed to carve, not puncture. One popular theory suggests it hunted by opening its mouth wide and bringing the skull down like an axe, what scientists call the hatchet bite, though some argue the neck couldn't handle those forces. Either way, the result was the same. Prey didn't survive. One fossil site in Utah contained 46 Allosaurus specimens in one location. Predators don't usually die together, but evidence suggests they might have hunted in packs. Groups of Allosaurus mobbing Stegosaurus and Brachiosaurus like wolves on a moose. Except these wolves weighed 2 tons each. When Allosaurus went extinct, it left a void. And evolution hates empty spaces, so it filled the gap with something even worse. But first, it tried something gentle. Apatosaurus, the dinosaur everyone calls by the wrong name. For over a century, museums displayed this as Brontosaurus, until scientists proved Brontosaurus was just a misidentified Apatosaurus. Then in 2015, new research said actually, maybe Brontosaurus was separate after all. Science is messy when you're assembling creatures from scattered rocks. Either way, this 23-meter giant spent its days eating enough vegetation to fill a dump truck. Daily. Those massive legs weren't just for support, they were geological events. Each step left craters. Herds of Apatosaurus migrating could reshape landscapes just by walking through them. But despite weighing 35 tons, it had a skull the size of a horse's. Tiny head, infinite neck, minimum brain activity. And somehow, it dominated North America for millions of years. When you're that big, intelligence is optional. And while Apatosaurus was rewriting geography through casual movement, another dinosaur was making noise impossible to ignore. Parasaurolophus. That crest curving backward from its skull like a question mark made of bone wasn't decorative. It was a musical instrument. Hollow chambers inside connected to the nasal passages, creating a resonating tube over a meter long. When air passed through, it produced low-frequency calls that could travel kilometers. Scientists recreated the sound using CT scans and 3D models. It sounded like a brass instrument designed by aliens. Herds of Parasaurolophus likely used these calls to communicate across vast distances. Mating calls, warnings, social bonding, all through a built-in trombone. And each individual's crest had slightly different internal architecture, meaning each dinosaur had a unique voice. A 75-million-year-old identification system running on lung power. But not every dinosaur needed to be heard from far away. Some preferred the element of surprise. Dilophosaurus, twin crests running parallel along its skull like racing stripes. For decades, this 7-meter predator lived in relative obscurity. Then Jurassic Park gave it venom spit and a neck frill, and suddenly everyone knew its name. Except none of that was real. No fossil evidence supports venom. The frill was pure Hollywood invention. What actually made Dilophosaurus dangerous was its build. A 2020 study proved it was bulkier and more powerful than anyone thought. Strong jaw muscles, robust skeleton, capable of taking down large prey. This was an apex predator, not some fragile scavenger picking scraps. Long legs built for pursuit, flexible neck for quick strikes, and those crests were likely display structures for attracting mates or establishing dominance. Thin bone, fragile, definitely not for combat. When Dilophosaurus went extinct 193 million years ago, it had no idea movies would later turn it into a meme. Evolution builds weapons. Hollywood builds legends. The cheetah, speed incarnate wrapped in spotted fur. If you made it this far into prehistoric chaos, hit subscribe, drop a like, ring the bell, and tell me which dinosaur you'd least want to see in your backyard.